Good morning. Welcome to our Tuesday devotion and prayer time. My name is Tom Lemler. I'm a staff member of the Deer Run Church of Christ in South Bend, Indiana, as well as the director of Impact Prayer Ministry. We're talking and praying this week about Prepared by the Spirit, taking a look at how God's Spirit works in our life, the benefit and the help, the counsel, the wisdom we talked about yesterday. And today we're going to talk and pray about a spirit of understanding. And so, Job, chapter 32, verse 8, we read, "But it is the spirit in a man, the breath of the Almighty, that gives him understanding." You read through the book of Job, and it can get quite challenging to understand how so many things could happen through no fault of Job's, but because Satan wanted to test Job, but maybe more so test God. And there comes a time near the end of this book where Job, complains a little bit. And God has to kind of set him straight. But in the midst of all of this, we read that Job maintained his faith in God. And God reveals to him that it's the spirit in a man, and then he defines that. It's the breath of the Almighty, making it plain and clear that it's God's Spirit that gives understanding. And when we lean into the Spirit of God, the breath of the Almighty within us, the things that we need to understand, we're able to understand. The things we don't understand, we either lean in a little closer or we discover that they weren't meant for us to understand. It's the Spirit of God that helps us. Jesus made it clear as he was preparing his disciples for his own departure back to heaven to be with his Father that he was not leaving them alone, that there were things that they did not understand, but when the Spirit came, there would be an understanding. You read through the Gospels, you'll find various times where the Gospel writers will say something and kind of says, we didn't understand it at the time. It wasn't until the Spirit came. It wasn't until Jesus had resurrected and ascended back to heaven. We live in a world and in a flesh body, in a mind that desires instantaneous understanding of everything. From very early childhood, we start asking why. Why? And we're generally not satisfied with an answer that requires faith. We want clearer explanation. And part of this understanding that comes by the Spirit of God is an understanding that faith is more powerful than sight. The wisdom, the understanding, the Spirit of God that moves like the wind, unseen and yet powerful. And it's this understanding of God's power at work within us that equips us to be prepared for this relationship with Jesus. This prepared for the Spirit, prepared by the Spirit, is part of the process to prepare us for the Son. When we walk by the Spirit, we walk with the Son. When we walk by the Spirit, we walk with an understanding that exceeds that which the human mind can comprehend. We live in a world that, well, it's confusing. And it's the breath of the Almighty within us. There's an old song that says, we'll understand better by and by. And some of that may be clarity, but I believe a big part of it is a lack of need. The things that we insist on understanding, well, they'll no longer be that important to us. I, along with many people that I know, joke at least about a list of questions that we want to ask when we get to heaven. People that we want to talk to, we want to ask, things that we want to ask of God Himself. And yet there's a big part of me that, well, believes that those questions won't be all that important once I'm there. It's not that I may or may not fully understand what I didn't understand. I'll fully understand what's important. And that's Jesus. That's eternity with my King. That's living in the presence of God. That's eternal worship. And so today, as we live life, consider all of those things that you don't understand, but you'd like to. And ask the Spirit. Ask God to fill you with His breath. The breath that gives understanding. And perhaps that understanding is greater knowledge of the details. But just perhaps, that understanding that He gives, it's an understanding that you don't need to know. That faith is believing. It's the substance of what you can't see. Would you spend some time today praying with me? Father, thank you that you are a God that loves us. Your love has given us those things that we need in order to be right with you. Your love has given us the breath of the Almighty, your own breath, your Spirit that dwells within us. A Spirit that helps us in so many ways. A Spirit which gives understanding. And so, God, today we do pray, and I pray that you would increase our understanding in the way that's most beneficial for us, but more importantly, in the way that's most beneficial for your kingdom. An understanding of what it looks like to walk by faith. An understanding of what's important and what isn't. An understanding of your love for us. an understanding of the love we ought to have for others. God, as we live as those prepared for the Son, may we grow in acknowledging and welcoming your Spirit. And as we do that, may we lift up Jesus in all things. The things that we don't understand, the things that we won't understand, the things that your Spirit has given us understanding in. Father, as we lift up Jesus, may he draw all people to himself. It's in his name that I pray. Amen. This has been our Tuesday devotion and prayer time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I do pray that your day is greatly blessed by God, so that you can be a blessing to others. Have a great day,